I decided from that day forward, if I ever got my together, he would never beat me again, ever.
Before you mentioned the race with Herlings at WW Ranch, where does that rank as one of
Charlotte, WW? I was Indonesia.
Charlotte. Where does that rank on your all-time kind of wins, especially like being in North Carolina as well?
Yeah, number one. Like
really, that's the number one.
To this day, like, did I still have dreams of it? Like, it's like a wet dream. But no, it was, man. It really was awesome, and that's where we actually since then have become friends, and like we talk quite a bit just from that.
He's a good dude, huh?
Yeah, he's awesome, and the way we think is so similar. It's scary, but
yeah.
For me, it was like at that time, I truly felt on a 250 unbelievable. Like, still to this day, probably the fastest I feel like I've gone on a dirt bike, like the most comfortable I've ever been, like just young, cocky, just full savage, I felt. And he was the same way, like the fastest man on the planet. Like, he rode the absolute shit out of a 250F. Like, I don't know, when I watch videos, I'm like, you couldn't ride it any faster. And so for us to square up, and like, I look at it like it was maybe not totally mano-a-mano. Like, he did have a championship to win that weekend, so there was a little bit of pressure there, but he was able to get it after the first moto. So I do feel like maybe it was a little bit of pressure relieved. But, and yeah, the track was good, but it wasn't like, to be honest, it wasn't the best outdoor track. You know, like, it was a good track, but it wasn't like, oh, this is the most epic race. But I think it's the closest thing we've had in a long time from like Europe to America's best, mano-a-mano. There's really no pressure for me. Jeffrey won the title. There's no pressure anymore. Like, let's see what can happen. And like, we battled like crazy, you know, and obviously I was able to go 2-1 and him get, he won the first one, I won the second one, and then me get the overall. Like, that was in front of my home crowd. Like, the bleachers were shaking. It was so loud. And that was for an outdoor event, you know, and it was cool, man. It really was cool. And to cap the year, like, I had one Supercross, I had one outdoors to win that GP. It was just like a really awesome feeling. And to know, like, even now, like, I look at Jeffrey, like, when he's on, he's still the fastest man on the planet on a motocross track. Like, I truly do think that, you know, and like, until we see Eli versus him mano-a-mano, like, that's the closest thing in my era that we'll have to that. So it was pretty cool.
What like went right for you that weekend? Like, you were just, it was just the cherry, like, you were just in the spot of your career. I
think it was confidence, because the funny backstory, sure, right? Yeah, home crowd for 100%. Like, if it wasn't in North Carolina, I may not find that speed and that like raw grit. But it was like, it was kind of funny. A little backstory to it was, I had won the national series the weekend before, and I wasn't even supposed to do the GP, but Yamaha had asked me like, hey, we really want you to do it. And I had told them, I said, hey, I'll do it, but I want my bonuses. And I wasn't going to do it until I got that approved. Well, they didn't approve it until that like Tuesday before. And so I had been, you know, I'm young, I'm 20. I had been celebrating my outdoor title like maybe more than I should have, and missed a few days riding, missed a few days training, and like, Swanee and the team were pissed. They were like, look, we gave you, you know, you won on Saturday. Like, we gave you Saturday night. We gave you Sunday. You knew you were going to race this, like, GP. Like, I went until about Tuesday. And they weren't happy. They were actually really pissed. Like, I qualified, I think, 5th, and Bobby Reagan came up to me and he's like, boy, you smell like a DUI. I'll be all right, Bob. Like, come on. And he's like, this is embarrassing. You make me come all the way down here to the damn North Carolina, and you're riding around in 5th place and, like, all this stuff. I'm like, damn, dude, like, they're right. Like, this ain't good. Like, I might get smoked. And, yeah, the first moto, like, I actually did ride really good, like, led majority of it, and I did get nervous. Like, I really did. Like, hometown crowd, I didn't know the pace, so I just was going as hard as I could for as long as I could, and then Jeffrey passed me, and I stayed behind him, like, within a 2 to 3 second window, but, like, it was everything I had to go that pace, and I was like, man, like, obviously it was a good ride, but, I would have liked to have beat him, and I knew for the second moto, like, same thing like I just said, like, he just won the title, so now he's really gonna send it because there's no real pressure. And I, like, kind of was mean mugging him on the start, kind of same thing that I typically would do, like, trying to get in his head. Like, I looked over because it was hot too. I was like, man, you're sweating a lot, like, you must be hot, like, you tired or what? You celebrate too hard? Like, and he's just looking at me like, dude had the wheel on me and cut me hard. And I'm like, came out like 20th, and I'm like, oh man, like, this sucks. And I literally had no choice but to just go as fast and as hard as I could, make passes, and I could hear the crowd, like, everyone was just going absolutely nuts, and the crowd really was what got me to that next level. And the simple fact of, like, Swanee had kind of been in my ear all week telling me that the Euros are better. And I'm like,
really?
All right, time. Like, me and Swanee had a good relationship like that. So I was like, I can't let Swanee be right about this. Like, okay, it's all right if Jeffrey beats me, but, like, not anyone else.
No one else. Yeah.
Once I got in a second, I caught Jeffrey. I'm like, you know what? It's go time. Like, I can actually win this thing. So it was pretty cool to look back on, and man, it really was, like, a special, just, like, all my friends and family were there in North Carolina, like, the only time we've raced there since, and, like, that area is where I'll grow up and retire in and stuff, so, like, it's just cool. I'll be probably 80-year-old driving by the speedway and telling my kids and grandkids, man, back in my day, I had the best race over there.
Dude, it's so cool. Yeah, it's rad that you and Jeffrey became friends out of it too, because, like, knowing you two guys, like, you are very similar. Like, there's such a savage mentality that gets you through your days,
Yeah, and that's what was cool. Like you said, I think there was instant respect between us both, but we were both the same person. We were a little arrogant, a little cocky, a little savage, like, in a good spot, like, we're both crushing it, but then to turn around afterwards and, like, literally shake hands. And then I went to California to get ready for the Nations, and then he had Glen Helen GP after, and he actually messaged me and was like, hey, dude, I'm in California. And it was funny, at the time we were both single, and he was like, hey, like, where the chicks at? And I'm like, I don't know, man. But we went to dinner, and then, just became, from there on, like, we had very similar personalities, interests, and stuff. And, we weren't ever really going to ever race each other again. So it was, like, cool just to chat. And even now, like, we talk about a lot of stuff that I think, I can't have with someone that hasn't been in that situation or having 100%. A conversation like that. So it's been really cool, and I wish him nothing but the best, and I hope he crushes it and continues to win like he did last weekend, because he hasn't had an easy path either, man. And that's another thing that I feel like we're very similar. Like, you count us out and you're going to regret it. And I think Jeffrey's the same way.
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang.